Arcana Rising is the debut full-length album from Coffin Storm. This is a Kolbotn, Norway-based, I guess, heavy metal band trio that is made up of members of Aura Noir, Inferno, and of course Darkthrone. Basically, these folks, the two folks that started it, Apollyon and Bestial Tormentor, were known for Tormented Souls in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, and they kind of carried that band through with ICS Vortex on vocals. This is sort of a spiritual successor to that band in some ways, but also something completely different in others because it's manifested in a very different result than expected. I think they went in wanting to make something akin to Candlemass, and instead they got kind of a thrash metal album out of it, and sort of a mid-paced thrash metal album which focuses on sort of the esoteric vocal performances provided by Fenriz, and his intent being something close to Agent Steel. I assume early Agent Steel rather than later Agent Steel. And we'll cut to a clip here, and I'll kind of go through the way that I see how mixtures of doom and thrash metal have manifested in extreme metal over the years, and how that applies here in a sort of a retro context. So there are reductive ways that we could look at a record like this, and then there are more complex, nuanced ways we could look at this. At face value, we could just say that this sounds a bit like Merciful Fate or even Mortuary Drape, just by its straightforward nature and the mixture of thrash and doomed pieces. We could look back to Candlemass and Memento Mori, and maybe just insert Fenriz's vocals on the Isengard demos, and we kind of get the result here. But there's also bands like Sacrilege UK and their second record, Journey into Mystery from Dream Death, and more obscure bands like Death Mass and Damnation's Pride, who purposely fused late 80s doom metal and thrash metal together in a way where you kind of got some early death metal sounds in some cases, and other cases you just kind of got a mutant sound that wasn't quite right. And there was sort of an ideal formed back in the late 80s that we never quite, it was never quite delivered upon. Of course, it makes sense that we would want to see this in sort of a black metal context, and think of the admixture, the strange fusion that a band like Hellhammer or Celtic Frost manifested back in the day. A lot of people see that as an advent of extreme metal in a lot of ways. For me, it is that specific combination of late 80s doom metal and thrash metal influences. So, Ancient Dreams is enough of a chorus to get there, and add a little bit of Merciful Fate in there too, and you get a feeling of what this record kind of sounds like. There's a lot of downstroked, heavier guitar riffs that are very much slow motion thrash metal of a certain era, and this album does make itself about doom metal riffs as well. So there is like a proper admixture of doom metal and thrash metal working in a dynamic that is just late 80s heavy metal. And what really the factor that makes it a bit weird is Fenriz. He shows up on this record and shares quite a big personality, and to the point where he weirds out in a way that makes these songs more emphasized in strange points than you might expect, and it all begins to flow naturally with some familiarity. But I think stepping into this record, it's all a bit strange if you don't have any of that context, and maybe you're looking for a Darkthrone record. That said, if you are looking for a new Darkthrone record, then not only is there one coming up that's a bit different, but I think that this is about as strange and esoteric as some of those more recent epic heavy metal ventures that he's taken in his songwriting, with the sort of black doom affect. So their performances and the tact and the mastery of these forms that they show on this record will be kind of overlooked for that face value interest and sort of the subgenre combination that's a little bit more interesting than the way that they piece these songs together. The reason that it works is because they're actually quite good songwriters, and they've very expertly leaned into classic 80s heavy metal songwriting for this, and it really shows in a way that I think a lot of people appreciate as authenticity if you are familiar with the classics and the classics era of subgenre excess, and where all the weird folk started to shine back in the day. This is about that weird. It's in a good way. It's an album I really enjoyed. This is an above average release, but it wasn't so memorable and catchy that I had to come back to it. I think that there's great riffs on every single song. Every song counts here, and it's very well presented in that sense. Basically it boils down to this has a lot of personality, and I think that this is well above the bar expected from this kind of thing, and it just a great list. Check it out for yourself. See what you think. It released last weekend, so go ahead and check it out at your leisure.
Fear the winter sun.